Live. Well, we're back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Hey, Rockstar, try this thought on for size. I actually heard this on one of those motivational videos on YouTube, but check this out. When you partake in instant gratification, you borrow gratification from your future self. Try that thought on for size. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to Hey Rockstar. This is episode 84. You're in for a good show.
And Miguel, do the thing, yo.
One, two, three. One, two, three. Let's go.
Hey Rockstar, welcome. This is a show devoted to bringing value to those interested in starting a side hustle or side business. Whether you're looking to be dual vocational, full-time, part-time, or sometime, I bet our stories will entertain you, encourage you, and empower you to become the rock star of your business and industry.
Woo! How'd you like that intro? I'm going to take the shades off because I want to be able to see my special guest I have for today. For those of you who are joining Hey Rockstar for the first time, we are a story sharing platform. We're designed to we're bringing stories of different entrepreneurs, different hustles, of people who have started and are working the grind. And our whole goal is to bring you entertainment, to bring you encouragement, and also empowerment to go and become the rock star of your industry or hustle. I'm excited about today because we have a man with depth and he's got a lot to share with us today. So without taking any more time, welcome. I want to make sure you're unmuted here. Welcome, Charles, from Freedom Worker Charles on Instagram. Welcome, my brother.
Thank you for having me on. I'm glad to be here.
My pleasure. My pleasure. How's the weather up in am I allowed to say what state you're in?
Yes.
How's everything up in Florida doing for you today?
Oh man, it's really hot out right now, and it's not looking to get any cooler anytime soon. So, hey, it is what it is.
It is, and right now I'm feeling that heat too. I'm currently in West Texas, visiting family and friends, and yeah, we're here like at I think today we're at 114. It's supposed to cool down to about 99.
Wow.
Tonight.
Amazing.
It's crazy. So I'm just gonna go and give you a little intro, because Charles and I we've known each other for a few years now. We actually met back in Nashville, currently when we both were there, and I got to meet him and his beautiful wife. And just, I think we met at a friend's birthday bonfire. That was the initial hello. That's as far back as I can remember. And we just talked a little bit, and then you started doing things, started inviting me, in which I appreciate you reaching out, inviting me to go hang out and get to meet your community. But then you disappeared on me, and I kind of also left. But then you came back with so much and so many things going for you that I'm like, Charles, I need you on my show. I need you on here. So that's a little bit of the history on how him and I know each other. But you know what? This is your show. I want to spotlight you. So if you wouldn't mind, just take a few minutes to kind of explain your business or businesses that you are highlighting today.
Yes, absolutely. So, the main thing that I started out with actually was addiction recovery, and we'll definitely dive into that a lot today. What I'm doing today is a joint business venture of trauma healing, emotional healing, a lot of the inner work and personal development as it pertains to building a business, helping other recovery coaches or believers who are looking to get their recovery coaching program started scale to $10,000 a month so they can more effectively service and impact those who desperately need their help. And that's a lot of what I'm putting all my attention into today while preparing for the birth of my first child.
Is he still tricking you right there, my man. I thought you were gonna be carrying your baby by now.
Yeah, we really thought that he was going to be here about a week ago, but here we are. We're still waiting. He's hanging on for dear life, but we'll see what happens in the next couple days.
No worry, the best things in life you got to wait for. I was also a late baby, so and my parents said I'm the best thing. Well, in my opinion, I was the best one. No, humble brag. No, no. You know, before we go into the questions, though, you mentioned something, and I kind of just want to clarify this or just ask, because you did say faith based, correct? Or at least
Yes.
some people. All right, so is it okay for faith based businesses or believers to make money, that much money?
Wow. Yeah. I know that money's a very interesting topic for some believers. I believe that I serve the God who owns the cattle on a thousand hills.
Mm.
I believe we serve the God of too much. I believe we serve the God who had 12 basketfuls left over after feeding the 5,000. So that to me tells me that there is plenty left for believers when it comes to financial provision. And it doesn't have to look like just getting by. And it doesn't have to look like living in poverty. The Bible says very clearly that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but that our God has come to bring life and life more abundantly. And I don't believe that there's any exception to the word abundant.
Amen. All right. So here are the rules for those of you who are watching. If you want to comment, the best way to do that is on Facebook or LinkedIn and even YouTube. If your comments are relevant to our conversation, I will gladly highlight. If you have a question, we will try to answer them within our allowed time. If they're not relevant, then I'll try to catch them all at the end and give you highlights. So without further ado, no, you know what? I've been thinking about that, and I think next show that I do solo is going to be faith and money, kind of that kind of talk. But anyway, so let's go back to you. Next question that I really like to have to ask you. So now that you've already defined what your business is and where you plan to go, when you first started, back when you first started, I would love to just. Oh, actually, no. Before that, yeah. What even led you? And probably here's where we're going to take the longer part of the time. You know, what need was around you, or what. Yeah, what led you to create your business?
Yeah, absolutely. So it all started when I was going through my own struggles with addiction.
Mm.
I was completely both codependent and narcissistic. I was very insecure. I did not understand who I was. I did not understand anything about reality. I was legitimately struggling to find a foundation for truth. I was struggling to find purpose. And because of that, I allowed my addictions to consume me. I was struggling with porn addiction, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, video games, food, all the traditional escapisms. My relationships were very unhealthy. My attachments were just terrible. Everything about my life appeared to suck, if I'm being completely honest. And a lot of that, in fact, all of it, came down to me trying to save myself on my own strength. I was trying to play God over my life. And because of that, I ended up just repeating the story that we all miss when we're going through the Bible. And it just comes down to me trying to say, I can do this without God. But an amazing thing happened in the pandemic where I finally broke down and I gave my dad a call and I said, I feel like I'm just a cow in a pen and I'm being slow bled. And I feel like I have no control over anything in my life. I feel like I'm useless. I feel like I'm just here to live and die. Like I'm already both feet in the grave. Even though I had an amazing job, I had an amazing life, but I couldn't see it. And 3 days later, well, okay, let me back up a little bit. It was on that same phone call that I said, God, okay, if you're real, then you can have the wheel of my life back. So I gave him my life, everything. And 3 days later, he reintroduces me to Megan, who is my now wife.
Hmm.
And I knew that she was my wife because there was no possible way that I, in my broken state, could have reached out and said, God, I actually need your help this time. And there's no way I could have done that and ended up connecting with her. No way. So when it happened, we didn't stop talking. And throughout this journey of our relationship, and it's very centric to what has led up to why I do what I do, I did not match a single thing on her checklist of what she wanted in a husband. And we just kept talking every single day, but she loved me where I was at. And she didn't show any judgments, she didn't show any opinions. And it was the first time that I ever really felt like I understood what it felt like to feel seen and to feel known and to feel loved without having someone else's views or judgments enforced on me.
Yeah.
She just loved me for who I am. And it was the first time that I saw myself as someone who is loved and who has a place where I'm accepted. I felt like I had a home in her. Up until then, I felt like I was chasing down finding that home in everyone else because I didn't like myself. So we continue to talk every single day, and about 7 months later, I get radically set free from all of my addictions. God completely changes my life in a single church service. And I went home that same day, and I couldn't stop talking about Jesus and what he had just done for me. And little by little after that, my world started to change. I started to see life differently. I started to learn more about who God is and learn more about who I am. I started to grow more in my own understanding of what I'm really capable of, and that I'm not just doomed to be a victim of circumstances, and I'm not just doomed to be the result of the traumas that I've endured. I realized I'm not doomed to be heartbroken my whole life. I'm not doomed to be alone. The only reason I was doomed to be those things was because that's all I believed was available for me. And because that's all I could see, I settled for it. I believed, even if this is all there is, it's better than nothing. So I accepted pain and misery and suffering. But when God changed my life, he showed me a completely different view of the world that I had no idea I was living in this entire time. So fast forward a bit, Megan and I, we get married, and I'm 24 at this point. I'm making nearly 6 figures, and I'm miserable. And I thought, well, God, this is not the life that you have for me. There's no way that you've introduced me to my wife, we've started our family, and I hate where I work. And it wasn't because it was a bad place. I had actually previously nearly been fired several times because I was not living up to my full potential. I was making excuses, I was blaming others, I was justifying my actions. I had no idea how to actually lead my life and let God lead me as well. I was fighting everything around me. But when I got transformed, I started to become the leader in my 9 to 5. And it was a really good, it was a really solid gig. And I was starting to get groomed for management. And not even being 25 yet, I was set up for success there. But I wasn't able to do what I really wanted to do in my life. And I realized that when I was helping a coworker to get a promotion, and he didn't end up getting it. So I asked him, why? Why do you think you didn't get it? So we sat down, we had a conversation, and it all came down to this. They wanted him to speak up about more of his successes in life. They wanted him to see what he was proud of, but he always felt that he could not speak about his successes because he didn't want to appear as if he was prideful. And all of that,
I get that.
His parents, his mom specifically, never said she was proud of him until he was in his mid-30s with his first child. So he grew up his entire life never once hearing anyone ever say, "I'm proud of you." Now, that was a long time ago. Now, he's getting pretty close to where I used to be. And this is after catching up very recently. So he has since accelerated. He's taken off in his career as we sat there on the phone just crying and realizing, wow, this single event impacted so much of his family's future because one person never said, "I'm proud of you." But when he was able to heal and reconcile, he was able to move forward and make the necessary changes without facing so much internal resistance because of a perception that would say that he would be prideful if he were to take the actions that were necessary in order to reach that next level of financial success. So that was the moment that I knew I wanted to do more full time. Now, newly married, it was quite a risk, but my wife and I, we agreed to take the jump. We agreed that, well, if we're going to do this, we need to be all in.
Yeah.
I had tried several times before to start a side hustle, and it just didn't work. I still had a lot of limiting beliefs, even though I had accelerated to the point that I was able to help other people get breakthroughs that they didn't know were possible. I was able to help a lot of people do it, but I couldn't do it for myself. And I realized that it was because I had not actually removed the safety net. Now, what a lot of people say is to not take the jump before you're certain that you know where you're going to land. I just couldn't do that. It was too painful for me to keep sticking around because it became less about money and it became more about the impact and the level of service that I want to be able to produce in my life. I want to be able to serve others, and I just couldn't do that in my role. No matter how high I was being groomed to become in the company, it didn't align with my values anymore. And at the end of the day, it left me suffering because I felt like I kept on choosing money over joy. So the route that I've noticed most people would take is they'll fit their joy within the box of their career. And they end up living to work instead of working to live. And what I want is to instead use work as an expression of who I am, the same way that my family is an expression of who I am, and my relationships are an expression of who I am. And I wanted to live not from a me-centered world, but from having more authority over my choices and the kind of life that I get to live, rather than being subject or doomed to live the life that I believe is set before me. I decided to draw a line in the sand and say, you know what? It's time to take action. Nothing will change until the pain of change. Until the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I
totally.
reached that point, and I knew I had no other choice. So I actually started off with porn addiction recovery, and I got my very first client. And he was having electroshock therapy done to his brain. He was in and out of the psych ward. He was on medications, and I'm not a medical professional, so I can't ever make judgments or recommendations on what to do there. But he was also addicted to porn and believed God hated him. He believed he was damned to hell. And I knew that that was something I could help with. So this was worst case scenario. Way to go for a first client, right?
Right.
It ended up working. Within 4 months, he was completely free from porn, in love with God. And he saw more progress working with me towards a better life than he did in 3 years with a certified professional. How's that for a piece of paper?
Looks good.
So at that point, things started to take off, and I went from 1 client to 30 clients. And it was quite a messy journey, but people have continued to get tons of freedom from their problems, whether it's getting free from anxiety, worry, depression, addiction. And a lot of it, I believe, really came down to taking the jump every single day. Because I had the choice multiple times to go back. I had the choice multiple times to say, you know what? I'm too scared to take this next jump. I'm too scared to keep going. I'm too scared to keep growing. But that's just not who I am. I value the impact, and I believe that if I continue to take the jump, that God's going to catch me if I fall. And he's continued to catch me every single time, and things just continue to grow and grow. And I've learned so much to the point that my wife and I, we now, it's so weird. We literally say to ourselves, I could never see myself in a 9 to 5. And we used to be on the other side saying, I could never see myself as an entrepreneur.
Right.
Who knew? But
That's
that's how it went down.
that's actually cool. You've given us so much, and I'm like, I'm putting my notebook away. I'm like, dang, I should left it here because this I'm gonna have to go back, and definitely you've given me some rock star real gold to use in the future once I start editing this stuff. But let's go back to the technical. Thank you for giving us the heart and spirit of why you do what you're doing, and we're probably gonna dig a little more deeper in that as we move forward with the other questions. But the next question that I have for you is, going back to when you originally started, when you decided this is the business that I'm going to do it, and maybe during that first client or the first few clients, what have been some of the obstacles? Actually, I wrote the questions here because I need to. Were some of the challenges you met when you first started?
So there's a couple things here. There's one in particular that I feel I need to start out with. The number one thing is that I didn't work on myself. I thought that I could solve all my problems with systems and structures, and it nearly crushed me. That was the biggest thing, because I was not ready to receive emotionally a level of income that was greater than that which I believed myself to be worth. I literally did not believe that I was worth receiving $5,000 from a client. And the struggle to receive that, it didn't impact their results, but it did sometimes impact how I would show up when I was leading them on the calls. And it would impact how I would show up when someone desperately needed help and I wasn't in a place where I was able to lead them to taking action. Because if I showed up uncertain, if I showed up feeling like an imposter, and if I showed up saying I'm unworthy of this, even though I've literally produced the result multiple times,
Yeah.
it made them unconsciously feel uncertain. And they would start to question, is this the right move? And so not only did I self-sabotage there, but those are less people that ended up being served because of my insecurities. And I had to work really hard at addressing the plank in the eye. It meant humbling myself and reaching out and asking for help and getting mentors. It meant getting coaches that could help me to fill in a lot of the knowledge gaps. And ultimately, I was better for it because I was able to reach the next level for my own self-worth. I was able to change how I saw myself, so that instead of seeing myself as an imposter who needs a certification, I could realize I've already produced this result multiple times for multiple different kinds of problems. I know what I'm doing. I've done this 100 times before, and I'm going to keep doing it even more. And when I learned how to stack the evidence in my favor rather than against myself, like most people are trained to, I started to see myself in this new light, and it actually impacted the way that I showed up in my marriage in a very healthy way. And it impacted how I showed up for myself, because I focused on changing my relationship with myself, which ultimately meant that it improved the way that I was able to help show up and serve my clients. So because of that, things continued to grow. But that was one of the biggest hurdles that I experienced early on, was getting free from the 9 to 5 programming, getting free from the societal conditioning of relying on a safe job
Yeah.
to produce an income, and believing that it was wrong to receive income for helping someone change their life. That was a very big hurdle for me. And it took a long time to overcome it and recognize that those who are actually serious about changing their life, they're going to do whatever it takes. And I started to notice this when I had clients that were only paying $1,000 and they didn't show up to get their results. But as I would increase my prices, $2,000, more people got more results. $3,000, they got even better results. $5,000. Those were the guys that fought for their freedom. They paid an emotional price. And because of that, they saw the emotional results. They were willing to sacrifice. And because of that, they're free. In fact, those are the guys that learn more and they go deeper because they're willing to learn everything they possibly can, because that's the level of their commitment. And what I began to recognize over time is I know a lot more than I realized. I just wasn't willing to step into my authority because I kept on believing the lies that I believe the devil kept on planting. He kept on telling me I'm not good enough. He kept on telling me you're going to be rejected. No one's going to like you. People are going to judge you. I kept on believing that all of those things were controlling me, or all of those, I kept on believing all those things were true and it controlled me. But when I learned how to spot the difference between a lie and reality, I was able to move past those things forever. And now I recognize my worth. I see I'm actually limitless. I'm powerful. And I believe we're all powerful. But we're used to living in a world that tears you down. We're used to living in a world that will cut your throat to get to the top. But I want to build a generation that helps pull everyone up. And that's one of my personal missions. And it actually ties in with a lot of the other hurdles that I had to overcome, bad investments being one of them.
Yeah.
I invested in people that were not aligned with my values. I invested in them because I thought that they could teach me what I needed to know. But they didn't love people how I love people. They didn't want to actually serve people. They wanted to make a quick buck.
Yeah.
And they were taking advantage of multiple people. But everyone eventually runs into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I had have allowed that to be the end of the road, and if I had have allowed that to say, you know what, I quit, I'm going back to the 9 to 5, that's where I would be today, and I probably wouldn't try again. But I continued to take the jump even though I experienced pain. And I found people that were way farther ahead of me that were willing to make the investment, and they were willing to work with me and teach me the things that I needed to know, and they were willing to walk the miles with me. And that's what helped me learn how to fill in those gaps that I had originally hoped were going to be filled in. And because of that, my life has completely changed. And honestly, I'd say one of the most important mistakes that I made that everyone needs to know about is that I put business over my family. And I was living in fear for a long time. I was getting all these crazy results from my clients. I was learning how to change my self-image. And even though there were some aspects of my marriage that were great, all of this happened really early on to us getting married. So we were still building things. And we got to a place where we had made so many investments that we hit zero in the bank. Meanwhile, no one's aware of this. They're all like 401ks drained. We have a mortgage coming up. We're thousands in debt. And it's never something that people like to talk about when it comes to being a successful businessman, right? But let's be real here.
Let's be real.
Nothing is as it seems. And God told us to have a kid right as we had zero in the bank. And we had a mortgage coming up. And we had all these bills coming up. And we said, you know what, God, we trust you. And we're still here today. We're free from debt, completely free. Clients are getting crazy results. It's incredible to see what God can do, especially when I surrender to doing things His way rather than trying to do them my own way. So the challenging part for me in all of this was that while I was still living in fear of, are we going to survive? Are we going to make it? Did I mess up? Did I make a mistake taking the jump? Was that Megan came to me one morning and she said, I'm pregnant. And I felt like I died inside. Because it's supposed to be this happy moment, but here I am saying, am I even going to be able to pay? I'm the provider, right? I'm
Yeah.
supposed to sacrifice everything I know and love in order to provide for you and be a good father and a good husband and a good leader for our family. But I felt like a failure in that moment because I wasn't where I thought I was supposed to be. And I ended up hyper processing the moment. I didn't numb it. I sprinted past it because I was so scared to be present with her, because I was afraid that if I chose to stop and smell the roses, that everything would fall apart. And I wasn't ready for that. And I missed the only moment I'll ever get to hear that for the first time. And it was a really crappy feeling because I see how I prioritize business over family. And I will never make that mistake again. The business is impacting lives, but it cannot do that at the expense of my family and our family health. It needs to be like everything needs to be in its proper place: God, family, and then everything else. But so much of the time, the reason why I've observed business people put the business above family and even above God is because they don't have anything else to live for outside of life. So they end up being at work thinking about home, and then they're at home thinking about work, and they're never really present anywhere because they haven't taken the time to grow the grass, the green grass, where they're at. And that's exactly what I did. I kept on trying to chase greener grass. Meanwhile, the seeds were waiting to be watered right where I'm at. And if I had have taken a step back from running the business to focus on growing my family, I believe the business would actually still be exactly where it's at, because there is no reason for me to sacrifice time with my family for the sake of something that if God's not going to use me, he's going to use someone else. So it's either me or it's not. And if I'm doing it in my own strength, then it never needed to be built anyways. And I wish I had seen that earlier on. It would have saved me from a lot of pain, would have saved Megan from a lot of pain. And that's one where I have two options. Either A, I can look at what happened and I can continue to dwell on feeling like a failure. Or I can look at that moment and say, you know what? I've course corrected. Let me go build this business and help others build their own businesses in a way that they don't make that same mistake that I made. And so my goal as I help others to build their own businesses is to help them learn how to prioritize their family above the impact.
Wow. That is powerful. You gave some great just life lessons in general. Usually everyone talks to a degree about, and I like the way you dive deeper into that part. They talk to a degree about self development. That's very important. That's the same story I hear about every entrepreneur. But I like the way you just went deeper and saying, because that will affect how much you earn, and most importantly, how much you can help others. Man, that's and it wasn't until you started making more that you were until you the price tag went higher that you were able to better serve others, as opposed
And
to let's bring it down a bit. No, that's powerful, man. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
yeah, and here's the crazy part about it. We've been taught that the harder you work, the more money you'll make. But I've actually found that to be very not true. I found the less you work, the more you make, because it forces your brain to think from how can I do the same things but faster without expending the same amount of energy. So it taught me how to be more resourceful. It taught me brevity. It taught me patience, because if I didn't learn how to be the master of my time, then I never actually left the 9 to 5. And the reason why I spent so much time pouring into the business was because I felt like I was supposed to fit the ideal image of what an entrepreneur today looks like. I thought I'm supposed to make my business look a certain way. My social media needs to look a certain way. And even though there is some truth to that, it was grounded in this idea that if I am not who people need me to be, then I will not succeed. And the truth is, who people need me to be is me. They need someone who's going to stop meshing to them. They need someone to be a leader. And I had to make a decision in myself. Enough is enough. It's time to be a leader, not a follower. Because I cannot lead my clients and I cannot lead my audience from a place of trying to please everybody.
Yeah.
I cannot keep the peace. I need to be willing to piss some people off, honestly. I needed to be willing to say things that were very controversial. I needed to be willing to talk about the uncomfortable subjects. Getting more, not just vulnerable. I define vulnerability as sharing very personal information. Everyone's doing that now, though. What we really want is intimacy, because that's where the emotion is connected to the information. That's what we really want. We want to know that we're not just scrolling through our phone. We want to know that we're building a relationship with someone. And that's what I want. I don't want to just be a celebrity. I want to be more than that. I want to be someone who can be a friend to the person on the other end of the screen who feels completely isolated, who feels completely alone. I want to be a beacon of hope for every single person that feels that way, that knows that there is more for their life. They're just looking for someone who's already done it. They're looking for someone to look up to. And if I can be that for others, that's who I want to be. And the best way I can do that is being me.
Oh, what quote was it that I shared not too long ago? It's not even originally mine, but something about the only you are. Oh, I think Ed Milet said this, and I just kind of shared it about only you are qualified to lead people where you used to be, something like that. And
Yeah.
that is so true. You don't know who needs to hear your story until you get out there and start sharing it. Being of the speaker background myself,
Yeah.
and all that stuff. Wow, Charles, I didn't expect you to go so deep in the first few questions, brother. You gave us so much. I'm still gonna ask the other questions, but I'm like, if you feel like I've shared enough, here's my information. Contact with me. We could call it a day. But
Oh,
no,
we're just getting
man,
started.
there's so much depth to you that it's just great. I mean, I'm gonna try to not go past the time limit that I've set for today, or for this show, but we definitely have to do like a follow up and dig deeper into other concepts and ideas, possibly even we'll talk about creating a mastermind of others. But you're already involved in multiple masterminds or another one, so I'm not gonna take more of that from you. All right, so let's next question, and it's kind of the same spirit of what were some obstacles you overcome. And man, those are some great things. I guys, rewind this and watch it again and again and again. But now you've been in this, well, how long, I guess, can you say you officially have been full time into your business? Are you
I
even full
think
time?
officially it's been a little over a year now since I started officially coaching life transformation and business building. I think, if I'm being honest, it officially started about a year ago ish. But I was doing this while I was in the 9 to 5. I was helping lead people beyond my daily responsibilities. And a lot of people think that they need a title in order to do something. That's how we're used to operating. Trophies,
Yeah.
badges, titles. There's a lot of people out there with titles right now that I wouldn't trust. What we really need is more human connection. We need more relationship. And it's really difficult to take advice and really receive wisdom from someone that you haven't built a relationship with. And that's what I really love about what I do is there's no restrictions around building relationships with someone. And there's no restrictions with sometimes the way that you got to call people out.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
yeah. I
really,
mean, you've had a certain authority. The stronger the relationship, the more authority that you're allowed to have over them to speak. And if you
yeah,
don't, I've too been yelled at. Someone who had the title, and they just because they had the title, I'm like, yes sir, but I walked away like, the crap. I'm not gonna pay attention to this.
yeah,
You have no skin in my game. Anyway, sorry.
yeah. It's interesting because you can be a good teacher and not be a good leader.
Mm,
You can be a good leader and not be a good teacher. You need both. And there's very few people who are good at both.
yeah.
And I found that, if I'm being completely honest, I'm pretty dang good at both. It took a while for me to accept that and be able to say that and to actually really believe it for myself. Because we can all say a lot of things, but if you're saying it and you don't actually feel it, in fact, I was just talking with a client about this. If you keep on saying, I'm a powerful person, but inside you're just saying, I'm powerless, it doesn't matter what you say. Your actions speak louder than your words. I just had to get to a place for myself where I had taken enough actions based in intimacy and authenticity that I started to really believe my actions more than my words.
Dude, that was good. That is good. I'm thinking about someone. Are you familiar with Myron Golden?
Yeah, yeah,
I remember he said something to the effect that the action leads to the emotion, not emotion leads to action, or something like that. Don't wait for the emotion because action will lead to the emotion or the feeling. That's good stuff.
yeah. And that's really where my field of expertise lies. A lot of services today address the body
Yeah.
and the soul. They don't address the spirit. And so they miss the core of who a person is. They miss the identity. They battle for the mind. They battle for health. Yet they don't actually go to the root. I don't like solving symptoms. I like solving roots because roots are where real change comes from. And the Bible says, as a man thinks, so he becomes.
Yeah.
And it also says that the power of life and death is in the tongue.
Yeah.
So what I can do is look at someone's wording and I can see their programming. I can see who they see themselves as based on every word that comes out of their mouth. I can see everything they believe to be true in their mind and in their heart. Everything they believe to be true in their spirit. Everything they believe to be true in their actions. Because we've traded good for evil and evil for good. No one's yes is a yes and no one's no is a no. If it's a yes for 2 seconds. If it's a no for 2 seconds. We've lost truth. We've lost boundaries. We've lost standards. We're all living in our own reality. But I want to live in reality and bring as many people to reality with me as possible. And that comes from standing on authentic, intimate values that are aligned with the love of God. Because that's where the foundation of truth really comes from. And if we don't start building from that place, all other ground is sinking sand.
Yeah. Hey Charles, I'm just asking this out of the blue. You've helped serve. I don't want to say service. You've helped serve many in this industry of yours. And I am a believer like yourself, and I'm a strong, firm student of the promises because that's truth. Whenever I speak promises and declare promises, those are truth. But have you, or do you even? Because it probably is a boundary you have. Do you also help those who maybe are not believers?
Yes. So it's always an interesting question.
Like, has it been? Where the results vary? If you don't mind going, just sharing with that. What's that?
Yeah, it's tough because when you're doing spiritual work, you run into a lot of new age kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it can be very difficult if you're not deep in your relationship with God to differentiate between new age and very deep Christian concepts that have just been repackaged and poisoned. And my goal is not to blend in. My goal is to stand out. So if someone who doesn't align with me wants to work with me, they're going to know what they're stepping into. And if they don't, we need to make sure some boundaries are clear there. I make it very clear what I believe online.
Yeah.
Now, there is a balance, of course. A balance of what are you actually trying to accomplish? So just for a random example, if someone's starting a water bottle company, I don't believe they need to be a believer for me to help them. But if someone's starting a company that helps people self-actualize and it's based in New Age practices, I'm probably going to make sure they're fully aware of what I believe before I even consider working with them. And it's not that I want to turn them away. It's that if we're not aligned at the deepest level with how we create impact in the world, they may be helping people get some type of results, but I believe that there's a very fine line being walked when it comes to what we come to believe about who we are, what life is really about, what we're all here for, and how we navigate that world. I believe it needs to be centered in Jesus. And if it's not, and someone's teaching those kinds of practices to someone else, I don't want to fuel that. Because that would go against what I believe. That would go against what I value. Because I've seen what life without Jesus really is like. And that's not something I want for anyone.
Amen. I like that. One person, well, I remember maybe it was a professor of mine who was also teaching ethics and business, but he's talking about, biblical principles do work in secular business,
Yes.
but secular principles do not work in biblical events or whatever. But so as long as there's life, and we know that we have life producing stuff, so no, I still go in with that with that no fear, and I'll work with anyone. I'm not sure if I think I have shared this with you, especially during the pandemic. Whenever I had a lot of alone time, I had to start asking God, hey, what is that I do believe? Because I don't see myself aligning with what's being taught on certain stages at the time, or platforms at the time. So I had to go and have that one-on-one. And it was through just listening to scripture 24/7, reading it, and just being engrossed in it, that I came up with my fundamental truths. Like, once, if I were to like just break it down, and it's real simple. Anything else can be debated except for these four things. Is, first of all, I choose to believe from this point now on God is real. I then choose that He is present. He didn't just leave us. I believe that He is with me, and I believe He is for me. And everything else, we can debate, we can talk about it, but it's not going to harm me. But once I simplified that and went at it with love, I could sit down and have conversations. I could sit down and do business with anyone of any faith and not feel like I have another little hidden agenda because I'm black and white as far as my faith and fundamental. But anyway, this show, I didn't want to go that way, but it's important. It's important, especially when you're dealing with subjects of the heart, or subjects of the mind, or subjects of the spirit. I love that you said that. Most people, they hit the soul, they hit the body, but sometimes they forget about the spirit. And maybe it's intentionally that, but we're not gonna go that one, because I don't want to. We could go all day. I know, and I can stream up to a 4-hour program, but let's not do that today. Let's just move on to the next question. I appreciate you so much, and this kind of already ties in with what you've already shared with some obstacles and things you've learned. But in this last year of being a full-time business owner in your business as a coach, what have been just some let me just read it out from here. What have been some big lessons that you've learned, or some great takeaways that you can now apply?
I have one lesson here. It's not mind over matter. It's mind and matter. And what I really mean by that is you can't just believe your way to success. Belief is part of it. You have your inner world, but you've also got a whole world outside of yourself. And if you believe that you can dunk, you need the skill set to dunk. A lot of people, you'll see them go on these singing shows and they truly believe in their heart of hearts, I'm gonna be the next idol. I'm gonna get the golden ticket, all the things. Then they start to sing, and it sounds like a cat is clawing a chalkboard. You can't just lean on mind over matter. Yes, your subconscious, your body, will naturally course correct a little bit, but you need to take action. You need to take time to build skill sets. And it is one of the most forgotten activities. You got to put in your reps. And that really takes time. But there's this balance between trying to outskill your emotions or out-emotion your skill. Tactical where tactical is due, emotion where emotion is due. And it's the biggest lesson that I could give to anyone, because most services, and that's what's so different about what I do, most services offer tactical building a business, or they'll offer personal development so you can be more effective in business.
Yeah.
You need both. You need someone who's going to work with you as you build your business. You need to feel good about it. If something isn't aligned, there's a reason why people build to millions of dollars and then throw it all away. There's a reason why people get rich or get famous and then they kill themselves. You got to feel good inside. If you're not in a place where you can receive, if you're not in a place where you actually believe you're worthy of receiving that level of success, you're not going to feel fulfilled. You're going to feel empty. You got to feel filled up now and go after the skill sets and then keep taking massive action. But there has to be an inner and outer alignment. And most of the time, when someone doesn't feel good about their business and doesn't feel good about anything in their life, it's because there's a part of them that is not being expressed. They've hidden a piece of their identity because of fear of rejection. Now, most folks are going to hear this and they're going to generalize, they're going to project, they're going to say that that's just me. But the truth is, we are very predictable beings. There's a reason why we have a number of personality traits and character traits. There's a reason why we have a number of roles and hats and understandings of how human beings operate every single day. It's because we're very predictable, as are our emotions and our psychology, our identities. It's all very easy to see through the matrix, and once you see through it, you can't go back. But once you see through it, it then makes it impossible to take a misaligned action without realizing that you are putting yourself in a position of suffering. And the only thing that would make someone intentionally go into a place of suffering where they're compromising their values is if they're, once again, trying to fit a square peg into the round hole. It's if they're not seeing reality on reality's terms. It's if they're trying to force reality to how they see it. And the simple truth is, you can control what you can control. You can't control what you can't control. So we got to get those things back in their proper order. You have full control over who you are, who you're becoming. You do not have control over your circumstances or other people. And when that happens, it's not to say that you're just a person getting tossed through the waves. You're not just getting strung along by the wind. But there's a quote that I really love. I don't remember who it's by. But it goes, "The reasonable man bends to the will of the world, and the unreasonable man bends the world to his will." Now, I don't know about you, but I'd like to be the unreasonable man every single day. And that means showing up as the full version of who I am, the full expression of who God has made me to be, recognizing that my actions are the true worship, because actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
So what better way to worship God than by being everything he's called me to be? That's how we be the light of the world. So if there's anything that dares to dampen my light, I don't want it. And that's what helps me decide to stop taking misaligned actions and start taking actions that actually glorify God, not actions that separate me from Him, because apart from Him, I'm nothing.
Yeah.
And if I'm misaligned inside, the worst thing I can do, once again, is go back to trying to save myself on my own strength, like we all do. Every single time we try to run or hide or deflect or project, every single time we try to suppress or numb ourselves, we're trying to escape the pain of an identity that we do not wish to have confirmed about who we already believe ourselves to be. Hence the self-fulfilling prophecy of the inner world being reflected into the outer world. And we're just trying to ignore it the whole time. If I believe I'm worthless inside, all of my external world's going to look like I'm worthless. But my goal, if I believe that, if I'm living with a closed-off heart and a closed-off mind, is to blame and justify and say that it's everyone else's fault that I'm in the position I'm in. But then if I don't have control over that, then I'm being tossed around. Then I'm the tail and not the head. So who am I, a child of God, to allow myself to be stuck to the circumstances when I could simply change how I perceive myself to be and the world that I'm living in, and realize that I could more easily navigate through any circumstance if I show up as me. But if I begin to hide and cower in fear, that's not going to help me get through the tough times. That's not going to help me be the husband and the father and the business leader that I'm called to be. And it's not even an obligation. I don't believe in obligation. I believe that it is my honor, and I'm humbled to be in a place where I can step into those shoes and start to walk. And if it's not me, then it's going to be someone else.
Yeah.
But I want to go as far as God wants to go with me. So I can't do that if I'm misaligned. I can't do that if I'm not being who He's called me to be.
That's wow. Again, if you guys are tuning in, you are getting some value today. I don't want to say you're getting free consultation, but man, I'm sure that you touched on things that have helped many people with what you just shared. And I mean, first of all, I thought about faith without works is dead, but then you went deeper beyond that, my man. You reminded me of something that a mentor of mine once taught me about praise and worship, and being in the music industry and being in the worship. I learned this valuable lesson. And to simplify it all, praise is not the fast songs, and worship's not the slow songs. Praise is everything you do with the physical, be it singing, being dancing, being jumping, being clapping, being whatever it is. Everything you do in the physical is really praise. And then he even threw in this little tidbit. He goes, and honestly, God doesn't have an ego. He doesn't really need our praise. Praise exists to remind us of His goodness, of the great things that He's done, and it's to help remind us to keep our faith in Him, to remember God. But he goes, but worship, simply put, is obedience, especially when you're obedient to the nature to which God has created you and has filled you and has called you to. When you learn to walk in that nature,
Yes.
you are walking in obedience. You're worshiping God, because your very life is declaring His goodness, His gratefulness, His abundance, His more than enough, His overzealousness, or whatever you want to say. But yeah, that reminded me of that lesson I learned in the mission field once upon a time, and it's true today. In everything you do, it's worship, especially if you're walking in obedience. Wow, Charles, good stuff, brother. Good stuff. My camera got. I had recorded a pre-show, and then I had a conference call. My camera, I forgot to recharge the battery, so it just pooped on me. So I just jumped onto my computer. That's what was the blackout. But I thank you for just taking charge and going forward without my image. But the last and final question that I have for you is well, before I ask this last question, what are anything else you'd like to say to the people, or how could people find you or get in contact with you if they want to pursue consultation, or if you want to, we can go and start talking about this next thing you have lined up for business owners.
So, the best thing anyone can do to get in contact with me is go to Instagram and you can search for Freedom Worker Charles. One more time, that's Freedom Worker Charles. That's all one word. That's my Instagram username.
And it's just like the one just like you wrote it right now on
Yes.
there. Cool,
Yeah.
perfect.
And
I'll be sure to add that in the description.
thank you.
Or I think I already have. But
So, a lot of all this ties into where I am today and what I'm about to get into. So, I've already got some folks in the program, and we're actually just kicking off. My goal is to serve 1,000 believers in helping them get their very own recovery coaching businesses started. That's recognizing that every single believer has a story. And every single story has a way that it resonates with a certain type of person. Even though a lot of us may have very similar stories, you have your expression of your own story in a way that you can serve those who desperately need you more than they need me. I can't serve everyone, but I can serve more people if I can help show someone else how to serve others as well. So if I can teach someone how to take their story of how they've overcome different kinds of pain and suffering, how they've overcome life's most challenging obstacles, if we can take that and turn it into a program that can help someone radically change their life, that's what I want to do. So that's exactly what I am doing. And my goal is to help 1,000 people, 1,000 believers do that. So if that's something that you're listening to this and you want to get involved, go ahead and shoot me a message on Instagram.
and okay, I just realized what I have on the description is your Facebook, but I will definitely go back and put the Instagram on there too. No, yes, this is going to be something powerful, and I told Charles, give me a month and I'll be ready because I have so much happening this month, and I want to learn what he has learned and be part of that 1,000 that's going to go and impact at least the people of the sphere of my influence, because I have a different sphere that you might not have access to, but it's gonna get bigger. Rockstar is gonna get bigger. So the last question that I do have for you is, and I expect and I pray nothing but the best things to happen to you from this year moving forward. But now that you've tasted and seen that God is good through your business, what big goals or what vision do you now have for moving forward in your business and career?
So the biggest goal that I have business-wise is to put my family first every single day. It kind of circles back around to what we talked about earlier. But honestly, when you build from family first, the business figures itself out. And typically you can see a lot of the problems from an angle that maybe previously when you're looking right at it, you wouldn't be able to see the answer. So by focusing on family first, a lot of what I've discovered is that you can change the vantage point to which you see problems from. And out of that comes an answer that is more easily accessible than if I'm staring the problem right in the face. And that enables me to put more time into my family instead of trying to fit a square peg into a round hole and figure out business problems. So my goal is to continue to put my family first every single day and watch that the business is magically, by the grace of God, going to build itself around that. And impact will still be made, just in the proper order this time.
Perfect. That's actually a great answer. That at the end of the day, your family's still there, and you build something. Whatever happens, your family first. I love that. I love that perspective, and you brought that to the table.
Thank you, man.
Charles, the time flew by, my man. Any last words? Anything else before we call it an end to this quick little, not so quick little show?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give a little word of encouragement for anyone who's looking to start your very own recovery coaching business, or just a business in general, if you have a good idea, don't just believe in it, take action. So, a lot of what I like to tell my clients is this: freedom moves at the speed of action. If you want to change your circumstances, change your actions. You want to change your actions, change the information you're getting. So, go and learn, go and grow, start programming new information into your mind so you can make new actions and have new opportunities. And the sooner you take action, the sooner your freedom arrives.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yes, take that, ladies and gentlemen. I keep looking at this camera. I gotta look at this camera. Yes, take everything he just said, and don't wait till tomorrow. Start today. Start changing. And again, I love it that he said that. If you, why did I do that? That if you have a good idea, don't wait. Don't wait on it. Let it go. Let it grow. Let it grow as you go. Take action. I love that. So I feel like I'm repeating everything you're saying. So let's just go ahead and call it a day. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, for joining us today at Hey Rock5tar. This has been episode 84, featuring Charles Meyer, a trauma healing and business coach. Did I even say your last name right? I'm sorry if I butchered it. Meyer.
Nope.
Charles Meyer.
You got it.
Like, why did I say Meyer? A trauma healing and business coach. Again, I encourage you, if you have a desire to help those around you and you've been feeling the need to just, or if that's a niche that you're interested in going to, those of you who are starting a business and you want to learn more about how you can become a coach and learn, talk to Charles, reach out to him, because he has done the work, he has connected, he has received the mentorship, and he's ready and able to help you with launching your business if that is your desire. And any other business ventures, we're going to continue to bring you more stories, more different business opportunities, or just different hustles that people are doing, all in the name of just to bring you, of course, entertainment, but also bring you encouragement and bring you empowerment, so you then can go and become the rock star of your business, hustle, or industry. So until next time, all the way from I'm in Andrews, America, and Charles is in Florida. Until next time, just much love and many blessings.